Any progress that they've made with the Hispanic community? Gone. Any progress that they've made with younger Americans? Gone. Because the American people have had enough of the extremism, enough of the lies, enough of the broken promises, enough of putting the wealth and the excess in the face of the American people. Most recently, what was on display down in Trump's luxury resort in South Florida, enough of the excess, the corruption, and the lack of focus on the issues that matter. Democrats in the House will continue to lead on the issue of affordability, will continue to lead on the issue of healthcare, and will continue to lead on the issue of making this great country the best version of herself. And our field general leading the charge in connection with what will happen next November when Democrats take back control of the United States House of Representatives is the DCCC chair, Susan DelBene.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Thanks everyone for being here, and thank you for your leadership just through this incredibly tumultuous time. Yesterday, from coast to coast, voters sent a resounding message that they reject the Republican agenda. They are raising costs on everything from healthcare, housing, utilities, their efforts to blatantly, and they rejected their efforts to blatantly rig the system to stay in power. Voters in California stood up and rejected Republicans' attempts to rig the midterm elections and deny people in California their representation in Congress. California was significant because it showed that voters won't let Republicans cheat their way to win. The passage of Proposition 50 is a victory for free and fair elections. It proved that the public understands what's at stake and that Democrats are fighting to level the playing field and respond to the outrageous and un-American attempt by Republicans to rig the elections. The Prop 50 vote also sends a message that while we didn't ask for this fight, that Democrats and the American people are ready and willing to fight back against this Republican scheme. Whether it's California, Virginia, Maryland, Illinois, or other states, we are prepared to fight back on every possible front, every step of the way. Last night's results also affirmed what we've been building here at the DCCC all year is the right recipe to win in 2026. In Virginia and New Jersey, voters overwhelmingly rejected the Republican vision that puts the wealthy and the well-connected over the needs of everyday families. It's a testament to the quality of candidates like Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, our colleagues and now soon-to-be governors. They're both former red to blue candidates. They're former House frontline members that flipped their seats in 2018. For the midterms, we're recruiting the same types of candidates. House Democrats are running incredible patriots all over the country who are raising their hands to serve their communities. They come from different backgrounds, different walks of life, but they are all united in their shared singular passion to fight for their communities, to make a difference, to work to lower costs and to improve the lives of working families. And they are ready to work hard. We cannot take anything for granted, and our candidates are out there working hard for every vote. Meanwhile, Republicans are only focused on how they can bend the knee to Donald Trump and rubber stamp his disastrous policies. Now, I say a lot, and I will say it again because it's true. Our great candidates are the difference. They are the ones who make the difference in our mission to take back the majority. Great candidates actually take the time to listen to their communities. If Republicans were actually listening to their communities, they'd know that people are hurting, they are struggling, all because of the reckless Republican agenda and their harmful policies. House Republicans are wrecking our economy, and people are struggling day to day. They are personally feeling how bad the economy has gotten under the Republican trifecta. Groceries, utility bills, housing, healthcare, childcare, everything is getting more expensive because of House Republicans. Trump and House Republicans promised on day one to lower costs, and they've broken that promise over and over and over again. It's going to cost them the House majority. All year we've been saying that Republicans are running scared, and last night showed us why. By every metric possible, we are seeing the American public sour on Republicans' disastrous record of broken promises. And it's why voters are going to reject them in the midterms. House Democrats have the better message. We have stronger candidates, more resources, and as we saw last night, a favorable political environment. The American people are with us. And that's a big, big reason why we're going to take back the majority in 2026. Thank you, and I'll open it up for questions. Mariana.
Through line between the success we saw in Virginia, in New Jersey, and also down in New York is obviously the message of affordability is one that House Democrats have been working about throughout the year. We know that's going to be number one plank, whatever agenda you will have, but what other lessons, what other issues stood out to you on last night that will also be part of this House Democratic agenda to bring back the majority?
Well, it is the number one issue, and it was the number one issue in 2024 as well. And one big reason why we overperformed in the House, picking up seats on the Democratic side, was because we had candidates talking about economic issues, talking about those pocketbook issues on the ground. And it absolutely continues to be the top issue. Like I said, housing, healthcare, childcare, energy costs, groceries, all going up because of Republican policies. And people see that, they feel that. You saw people cast their vote knowing what's happening right now. We have candidates across the country who are talking about that. So that is having great candidates talking about the issues that matter, working hard, and actually listening to people is a huge reason why we win.
Affordability is definitively the decisive issue, as we saw last night, and our candidates now, governors-elect or mayors-elect, are on their way to serving the communities that they sought to represent because they leaned in aggressively on driving down the high cost of living and addressing the affordability crisis that we have throughout America. In an environment where Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one, but costs haven't gone down, costs are going up. Trump tariffs are making life more expensive for the American people by thousands of dollars per year, and the American people know it. Housing costs are up, childcare costs are up, grocery costs are up, electricity bills are through the roof. And now throughout this 36-day Trump Republican shutdown, the American people know that for tens of millions of folks, their healthcare premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to skyrocket at levels that will make accessing a doctor unaffordable for them because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. And so we're in an environment where Democrats are going to continue to lean in on lowering the high cost of living because America's too expensive right now, and continue to make clear that Republicans haven't done a damn thing to make their life more affordable. And in fact, they've done the opposite, which is to make life more expensive for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans. At the same time, what is also interesting is that you saw decisive Democratic victories in other parts of the country that clearly also signal the national environment that we're in. Sweeping the state Supreme Court races in Pennsylvania, a battleground state that Donald Trump just won last year. Winning down ballot statewide races in Georgia for the first time in 20 years. That's an indication of the environment and a rejection by everyday Americans of the extremism that Republicans have unleashed on the American people. And thanks to great leadership from Governor Newsom, who's done a phenomenal job leading the Prop 50 effort side by side with the congressional delegation led by Zoe Lofgren, Pete Aguilar, and Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, side by side with our partners in organized labor, side by side with the California legislative leaders. It was an all hands on deck effort to get Prop 50 over the finish line decisively. But Prop 50 didn't involve an individual name on the ballot. It was an idea that we have to stop Trump from stealing the midterm elections and give the American people the ability to decide who should actually represent them in the Congress after the 2026 midterms.
Thank you, Chair. Following up on Prop 50, Republicans, they filed a lawsuit this morning in an attempt to block California's new House maps. What's your reaction to the lawsuit? Does that pose any concerns to the effort to, as the leader has said, to offset some of the attempts that Republicans have made to gain with Democratic seats through
First, I'd say it's interesting that Donald Trump goes to the Republicans in Texas and says, give me 5 seats, and Republicans say, yes, sir, and they think that's okay. The people of California who got to have a vote and a voice, Republicans don't think that's okay. I think that says everything about where Republicans stand.
It's a frivolous lawsuit. Everything that was done in California was done consistent with the Constitution at the state level, with the United States Constitution, and with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Compare that to Texas, where everything was done to undermine the Voting Rights Act and violate the Constitution, because the 5 districts that were targeted by Donald Trump and Texas Republicans were all represented by African American or Latino members. All 5 that they want to wipe out as part of their effort to rig the midterm elections. And we expect that there will be a decision sometime soon from a 3-judge panel in Texas that might conclude that what was done by Texas Republicans was unlawful. And that's very different, as Susan pointed out, than what the people decided in California to make sure that they had a fair map that we would be determined by them as individuals, citizens of California, and not Donald Trump and his MAGA extremists.
You mentioned that for Democrats, the number one issue is affordability and funding limitations. Before Republicans saw this passed yesterday, was the focus on social issues, cultural issues, just trans issues. How are you, against directing candidates and how to respond to those attacks ahead?
Candidates talking to people on the ground, talking the issues that matter, taking issues head on. That's how we win in purple districts. And we have candidates doing that. You saw that with Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill in their races. Talk about Republicans have nothing to talk about. They are not talking to people about the issues. They're focused on the pocketbook issues. They're impacting their communities. Mikey Sherrill, Abigail Spanberger, great examples, but across the board, talking about issues, taking things head on. And I think that's why their campaigns were so strong. And we saw this last cycle too, folks talking straight on to issues that Republicans were raising, talking to their communities, having authentic leaders who stand up for their communities. That's how we win.
Abigail Spanberger focused on 3 issues: affordability, as it relates to housing and healthcare and utility prices. She focused on job creation in a state where Donald Trump and his administration have attacked the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia and have caused the economic growth that should otherwise be taking place to collapse. And that, in fact, is occurring under a Republican governor in Virginia as well. And then Abigail focused on the highest quality education for the children of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Abigail Spanberger focused on the issues that matter. Here's what Republicans did. They spent tens of millions of dollars trying to weaponize the transgender issue. It failed. And they spent tens of millions of dollars criticizing Abigail Spanberger for deeply inappropriate text messages that were sent by the Attorney General candidate, but not a dime in actually talking about what they would do for the people of Virginia, because Republicans have nothing but a failed track record and a bankruptcy of ideas. But that playbook failed spectacularly. In fact, the Democratic candidate for Attorney General won, and it wasn't even close by the standards of Virginia, 5 points, let alone Abigail Spanberger winning by 15. So this guilt by association playbook spectacularly failed because Democrats are staying focused on the issues.
In 2018, it was pretty controversial when the DCCC leadership got involved in primaries. There's a lot of crowded primaries for open Democratic seats right now. There's a lot of crowded primaries to take on vulnerable Republicans. There's a lot of insurgent candidates challenging incumbents. What is the DCCC's policy going to be when it comes to influencing those primaries?
Our policy is the same policy we've had since I've been chair. You know, we have great candidates running, sometimes multiple great candidates running in primaries, and they are going to work hard to earn support in their communities to differentiate themselves. We have, in a small number of cases, gotten involved. Janelle Bynum, one example last cycle where we were involved in her primary in conjunction with, delegation, many folks supporting her campaign. But, in most of these cases, the voters are going to have a decision on who the primary candidate is going to be.
Senator Sanders, just follow up on that question a short time ago, was asked about particularly primaries. He said, of course, there's a division within the Democratic primary. How do you guys think about some of these competitive primaries when it comes to trying to put forward a unified message going ahead?
Well, the DCCC focuses on swing seats, defending our frontline incumbents, all of whom are on their way to winning re-election, and flipping red seats blue. And the DCCC has never gotten involved in primary dynamics that involve safe Democratic seats, and that policy has not changed.
Thank you. Earlier today, President Trump said the shutdown had probably hurt Republicans in elections, especially in Virginia. I'm wondering if that gives you any encouragement that this could kind of bring Republicans to the table for negotiations to have a shutdown.
The responsible thing to do, and this has been the case since October 1st, is for Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, and John Thune to sit down with Democrats on Capitol Hill who represent half the country so we can reopen the government, enact a bipartisan spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people, including as it relates to driving down the high cost of living because America is too expensive, and decisively addresses the Republican healthcare crisis that is crushing people all across America. Working class America, small town America, rural America, urban America, the heartland of America, and black and brown communities throughout America. Republican policies are crushing people, particularly as it relates to the cost of living and healthcare, and the American people are rejecting that extremism, and we saw it on full display from coast to coast and everywhere in between last night.
To follow up on that.
Last question.
To follow up on that, what message did last night's election results send to Senate Democrats who were going into last night? Some of them were starting to talk about off-ramps, compromises, things like that. So what message does kind of the overwhelming support for Democrats last night and focus on off-ramps on that?
Well, we've said from the very beginning that we will consider anything in good faith that emerges from the Senate that is bipartisan nature, that reopens the government, that decisively addresses the Republican healthcare crisis, particularly as it relates to extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and that actually involves a spending bill that makes life better for the American people, not worse, which is why we have continued to maintain, and Senate Democrats have shown great leadership, led by Chuck Schumer, that we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. That was our position in September. That's been our position throughout October, and it remains our position in November. Thank you.